Turkey Day's behind us. Week 13 is behind us. It was a long weekend of football, which was awesome. And some really, really weird stuff went down. And then some not so weird. Anyway, it's week 14. It's time to prep for the playoffs, whether you're getting ready to get in there or trying to slide in at the last second. Fantasy Whiplash Live starts right now. Play the music. Happy Tuesday. What it is, what it was, what it will be. We're here. Get used to it.
Oh, yeah. We got it. What's up, man? Sam, how we living? Hopefully you had a great Thanksgiving.
Man, if I was any better, there would be two of me.
Wow.
Actually, that's a lie. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and I'm wearing Milk-Bone underwear. But regardless, I'm so glad to be sitting across from you because I've just had a heck of a day, and there's no one I would rather sit down and talk ball with than you, my friend.
Hell yeah, man. It's good to be here. It's been a while. It's good to be back. Whiplash is always a good time. The neck is fully recovered from all the whiplashing that I did in the midseason. We're here for the playoff push, so drop the questions in the chat. Let us know how we can help. We're almost here. We're almost to the playoffs. It's exciting times in fantasy land. It's exciting times in the NFL too. It feels like all time is a flat circle. The Patriots are reigning supreme again. We have all of these middling teams struggling like the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Steelers.
Yeah. And even the NFL teams that really don't have a shot at the playoffs themselves are enjoying the fact that neither do the Chiefs or the Ravens, or at least so it looks right now. You know,
yeah.
What I mean?
Everybody
they love the fact that the playing field feels more even.
Oh, no, the parity in the NFL is absolutely unbelievable. I think a lot of these like entities in the NFL that we've just assumed for all these years to have black magic, you're starting to wonder, has it fallen apart a little bit? The Eagles look a lot more human. The Chiefs are struggling in one-score games. Tomlin might not finish 9-8 this season. So there's just a lot of change, which is good because if it was all the same every year, we'd have nothing to talk about. The script writers really did it big this year, man. So we'll be curious to see how it finishes out.
They really did, and because it has been the same for quite a while. There's always been that one or two upstart team that comes in to kind of surprise everybody, but even the 49ers always make the playoffs, and the Chiefs are always there, and the Bills are always there, and the Bengals have always been there, whether they had success or not. But yeah, and like you said, Tomlin, is he going to finish under 500 this year?
No, he'll find a way. That magic.
I think you're right. I think you're right. It baffles me. I understand that every fan base will homer their head coach mercilessly. No one knows it better than I do in Cincinnati. But when I see Steeler fans just saying, and it's been a couple of years now, saying, Tomlin's got to go. And I'm like, who right now, who's going to be better?
Well, I think there's a couple arguments. There's a couple arguments that I can see where it makes sense. So argument one is that you believe that Tomlin is essentially acting as the GM, and the GM that they have there is more of a paper title and not something that's there. If you look dating back from like 2016, 2017 onward, outside of these last couple years, since they've switched over from Kevin Colbert, they did not draft well at all. If you look at the news from today, they cut loose Darius Slay. It's like, yes, you took the oldest cornerback in free agency, gave him $10 million, and are surprised that he gets hurt every third play and wasn't able to play man-to-man defense in a young man's game. That is not good GMing. So I think that's part of it. I think the second part is that people feel that the floor for Tomlin is high, but it keeps them in this like purgatory, which that doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like you can draft well and not necessarily be a top pick, and you can be a top pick and still not draft well. We see it all the time. You look at the bottom feeders like the Jets, like the Giants, like these teams, and they're just constantly picking at the top, like the Browns. They get these elite picks, and what do they do with it? A whole lot of nothing. We're seeing Abdul Carter getting benched for the first quarter of a game for some really suspicious rumors that we're not going to get into. Very weird stuff. But
it was weird, man.
Yeah, very weird. Very weird. Save it for home, my guy, or at least just do it on your phone like a true gentleman. But yeah, it's just very odd and bizarre. So it's like I think that you could have the team go through this, but like the stuff that I don't believe in, the things that I don't understand is when it's like Tomlin is forcing them to not use the middle of the field. It's like, yes, they don't want their 42-year-old already hobbled quarterback throwing it into the most dangerous area of the field when he can't throw it for more than 10 yards. Would you want Justin Fields to throw it in the middle of the field? Do you trust Kenny Pickett? Do you trust Mason Rudolph? Do you trust noodle arm Ben Roethlisberger? No, you don't. Are there problems with the defensive scheme, how they've done things? The defense is old. Yes, but that's just the way that the NFL works. Your Hall of Fame quarterback got old. He had a huge contract. That contract went off the books. Your best players were defensive guys. So then you have this really high-paid defense, and then you're supposed to supplement that with good offensive drafting. They did not do that. But now you're seeing that they're really investing in the trenches. They're really trying to kind of do things very similar to the way that the Eagles got their success. They built stud defensive and offensive lines, and then they manhandle people. And if you look at Andy Weddle, he was an assistant GM for the Eagles. You can see his blueprints are all over the way that the Steelers are drafting, and I would argue that they have drafted better the last couple of years. Have they refused to address the wide receiver 2 position? Yes. Are there still going to be holes in teams? Yes, there's always going to be. But at the end of the day, let's just be real about this, Sam. Where would you have ranked Aaron Rodgers at the beginning of the season in the AFC alone as like quarterback ranks in that conference?
In the AFC?
And just in the AFC.
Gosh, I don't know, 12th?
Right, exactly. And you're never going to win a Super Bowl when you have like the 8th to 12th best quarterback in your conference.
Right.
So it's just like it's not going to happen. And even within your division, you have
defense is really, really good.
And it hasn't been. And that's a problem. So we'll see what happens. I do think that maybe things are a little bit stale. I do always laugh when people are like, oh, well, look at Andy Reid. Like it was an amicable breakup. And then he was so much more successful in Kansas City. And it's like, yes, he got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time thrown into his lap. Of course, he's doing well with Patrick Mahomes. I think a lot of people, they underestimate how important like the players are. Like, yes, a good coach can do and elevate players. A bad coach can make players play worse. But at the end of the day, I'm of the belief that it's like your quarterback is the number one most important thing that you have. Number 2 is going to be your GM. If you have a GM that's not able to really do a whole lot and isn't managing the team well, I don't care who you're throwing out there. With it being a zero-sum salary cap league, you're always going to have gaps. And it's like, how do you draft well? How do you mitigate things? I mean, look at what they're doing in LA. Look at what for the Rams. Look at what they're doing in Philly. These teams that have this constant success, they draft well. They're smart with their contracts. They know how to get value out of players, and they know how to make the magic happen. And it's like, no matter like who you have coaching, if you have that GM, and that's not to take away from McVay. I think McVay is a great coach. But do I think that Sirianni is a good coach? No. Absolutely not. But the GM is so good, that team is so good that it's like, all right, like just go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the key is always bringing in talent and being a good judge of talent. And even then, nobody hits it out of the park. No. That's part of the fun of it is seeing, six rounders and even seventh rounders, make impressions on the field. But still, somebody saw that guy and said he's worth drafting in the seventh round rather than, letting him go to be an undrafted free agent. Like, you were actually worried. So you thought something of this guy. And that kind of stuff is always, I think that's more exciting than the big picks. We know the big picks are going to get picked, and half the time we know, we have an idea where they're going to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, the GM is so important. And once again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but no one knows that better than me, because our GM is the owner of our team.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes. Duke Tobin has the pseudo title. I don't even know if they call him the GM, but everybody knows that's technically what his job is. And he's not even good at it. But it's also, everybody in the organization's hands are tied by the ownership and the family, because it's a family-run business. It's not Jerry Jones, who was a millionaire just throwing money around. It's a family-run business, and they're never going to compete with the salary cap. People are like, "Oh, we have $120 under the salary cap." I'm like, if you think they're going to go all the way up to the salary cap, you got another thing coming.
Right.
So I digress. I could go on about it all day, and I'm sure you could go on about the Steelers all day as well.
Oh, for sure.
Besides these other teams. But while I'm thinking about it, I do want to remind everybody, when you're watching this video, please do bang that like button, hit the subscribe button so you know every time we go live. Helps us with the algorithm and all that good stuff. Joe, let's just dive into it. First of all, you just made a kind of an esoteric comment about how the Steelers haven't addressed the wide receiver 2 position.
Oh, wait, I forgot. We were hooked on a Thielen. We're so back, Super Bowl bound. Somehow we cut the oldest cornerback in the league, and then we signed a new player, and our team somehow got older.
Hooked on a Thielen, man. I've got a breastful peasy Thielen. Yeah. So, does that do anything for you?
It makes me feel hope as a white man that I could maybe make it if I really commit myself.
I mean,
I still got 2 years. I got 2 years
now.
to 36. I got 2 years to 36. Maybe I can make it into the league like Vincent Papali.
I think you probably could.
No, it doesn't do anything for me. I mean, you bring in a guy like this. We saw it with the Mike Williams trade last year for the Steelers. Maybe he gets some run. Will he do a whole lot with it? No. He provides kind of just like a bigger receiver, which they lack, especially from like an underneath perspective. They have Roman Wilson, who's not necessarily like a big guy. Calvin Austin, still pretty small. DK Metcalf, like, he's just getting double teamed and bracketed left and right. They don't really know how to break him free. So I guess this is a cheap attempt to do that. It's funny because I think Adam Thielen
lost a step too. So, I mean, when you've already, I'm not talking down on DK. It's just he's getting older and he has lost a step. And he doesn't win a lot of balls that are challenged. You know what I mean? He doesn't come down with the tough catches.
We did see
so
last
if
year
you bracket somebody like that, man, they're screwed.
Yeah, and we did see last year at the end of the season with Andy Dalton, Thielen had himself some good games. I think the difference is that Carolina was a lot more willing to open it up at the end of last year. I don't see that in the cards for the Steelers. Adam Thielen could be like an interesting, like really cheap like DFS play just because he'll probably be like a PPR merchant. But this Steelers offense is going to live and die from the way that they play on the ground. Adam Thielen isn't like a crazy blocking receiver, so it's not like he's going to necessarily be out there. So I don't think he's somebody that you need to pick up. Could it maybe help Rodgers a little bit? Sure. Does it hurt DK? Not really. Does it hurt the other receivers? You shouldn't have them rostered. Does it hurt the running backs? I think it helps the running backs, if anything, because there's at least this like element of, hey, remember that guy that was all pro in 2017? He's on the team.
Right. Yeah, we better cover him. Get your walkers. I can't imagine his rostership will go up much. But you never know. I mean, there's people out there that just they're like, well, I mean, he was on the Vikings and they were terrible, and now he's on the Steelers and he's got a chance. And it's at this point, having him on a fantasy roster is a boom bust proposition. I think he's the kind of guy that could come up with like a big game between now and the end of the year, but you don't know which week it's going to be, and there's probably no way to predict it either. And that's if Aaron Rodgers likes him or Aaron Rodgers plays. So that's an interesting one. Here's another interesting one. Currently 22% rostered is our old friend Treylon Burks. How high does his rostership jump after tonight? Because of that one catch.
That one catch was sick. And he did
it was crazy.
He did it with the hand that he broke that basically got him cut in the first place. Right?
Right.
So I think that anytime that you see someone have kind of like a highlight play like that, it's going to spike a little bit. That being said, Terry McLaurin had such a monster game that it's going to overshadow that quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I would say that you said he was what, 20 something?
I don't know. He
Somewhere
feels like an 80.
I will say that he'll jump up like 12%. I think he'll be in the 30s. I don't think people will pick him up, but I mean, Mariota's looked solid back there. He's looked better than other starters in the league. He always seems to do, like he does just enough that it's like, could you be? And then it's like, no, you can't. But you think that maybe he might. But
yeah, the mobility.
I think there's kind of the appeal of, hey, who is the other option? Like Ertz can kind of be there for a minute. Let's talk about like, hey, like McLaurin's back. What if he gets hurt again? Could he see that? Like, there really hasn't been a whole lot of excitement from that Washington offense this year. So I could see people doing it, but it's more like degenerate people, like people that we're friends with that are like, I've been waiting. Like Tyler Bradley, I guarantee you will pick up Treylon Burks because he loves him dearly. But the average casual person will be like, I don't even know who that person is. Like, I don't know.
Okay, Alex. Alex from Yards for Fantasy. Treylon is so bad.
Yeah. Alex is like a certified sicko. So it's like, yeah, like
Alex is a certified sicko, and don't say anything about any Colts because he will bury you. Anthony Richardson was his favorite, and now he loves Adonai Mitchell. And the best part about this is he's not sitting across from me, so he cannot defend himself.
Hey, you know what? Adonai Mitchell's going to do it again this week.
Oh, God.
I'm telling you, Sam. They're going up against Miami. Everybody beginning of the season was, start your running backs versus Miami. Start your running backs versus Miami. Miami has only allowed 16.1 fantasy points per game in the last 3 weeks to running backs. It's completely flipped. Now they can't stop anybody through the air. 36.6 points per game allowed against New Orleans, Washington, Buffalo, who have no semblances of receivers whatsoever. Repeat performance for Adonai Mitchell. I'm here for it.
I actually like it. And Alex is going to remind me of that on our show on Saturday, I'm sure.
Did you see Jason's question in the chat, by the way?
What's that?
Did you see Jason's question in the chat, by the way?
I did. You want to hit that?
I'm married, but I will.
Jason, thanks for coming by. Jason wants to know, would you drop Tony Pollard for Jacoby Myers in a half PPR? He would likely start Myers with bye weeks coming up. Other wide receivers are Jaden Higgins and Alec Pierce. Well, this is interesting. Your thoughts, Joe?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the stickier stats that I tend to lean on quite a bit through fantasy points data is expected fantasy points per game. I feel like it's a great metric to see how players are over or underperforming. So Tony Pollard in the last 3 weeks has averaged 5.3 fantasy points per game. His expected fantasy output has been double of that, so they just really haven't been able to do a whole lot on the ground. It makes sense because Tennessee's struggling to stay in games. Cleveland, that defense at home, I would not be playing Tony Pollard. I don't feel comfortable just with like a game script perspective. Jacoby Myers had the big game last week. He was pretty efficient. It was the first time that we saw pretty much the full squad in Jacksonville. Led the team with only 29 routes run, but he also led the team with 6 targets. What's interesting, Jacoby Myers, when he got traded, a lot of us were thinking that he was going to be kind of the slot guy, but it turns out that Brian Thomas actually was the player that got the most slot snaps between the two. And then Austin Trammell saw a lot of work in the slot, which God knows why they did that. And then you still have Parker Washington floating around.
Parker.
I'm a big Jacoby Myers
was not forgotten, which is good.
Yeah. But, I mean, you have Jacoby Myers running routes on 90% of snaps, which is awesome. 3.1 yards per route run, which is great. Looking at the matchup this week for Jacksonville, they're going up against Indianapolis. Indianapolis has been porous. We saw Sauce Gardner get banged up last week. He probably would have been going after Brian Thomas anyway, but that has a trickle-down effect, right? Because
of course,
shuffle stuff around. So I do like the play. I would go for it, assuming that you have other startable running backs in the stable. I don't see a positive game script for Tennessee for the rest of the year. So it's almost one of those drops that like you hope someone else picks them up and plays them.
Against you.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I think it's a good move, Jason.
Yeah, I like that too. I have a lot of problems with Jacoby Myers. I've never been a big fan, and so but it's still not. I don't just not like the guy. You know what I mean? I'd be fine with him succeeding. He's very talented. The drops are starting to bother me a little bit because they've gotten more and more each year, really, and it seems like that's happening with passes that are like right on the button. And I could be making that up. I mean, I don't know if those stats are correct, but he just always looks like he's kind of fumbling through it. But to be fair, he was on the Raiders and hasn't had reasonable quarterback play in quite a while. I mean, Gino fell off bad this year.
Shocker. It was a shocker for me. I thought that he was going to do really well. I knew that they didn't necessarily have the weapons. I think the biggest thing is that offensive line is worse than we ever could have imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because people are starting to turn on Genty a bit because of it.
Yeah, that's
and it feels like an immediate, like, if you can go buy him, go do it.
Yeah.
I imagine that people that have him probably don't want to trade him in a dynasty format, but I mean, the dude is getting hit basically in the backfield every play, and he's going to be fine.
It's worth a try.
I don't know if you've seen the reports that it was like they just changed the offensive coordinator, and then they were saying that like it was Chip Kelly, right? He was like calling the wrong plays or like getting the calls wrong when he was like announcing it to Gino. It's like how like you're just reading off the paper. How are you messing that up?
Well, that's like when Brian Callahan in Tennessee before he got fired. There was all this talk about how he didn't even know what some penalties were. So he had referees come to practice and walk him through why they called a penalty. So how do you get ahead? I don't understand how you gloss over that in a head coaching interview.
Well, I just prefer to keep my stupidity to myself, or I tweet about it, and then when I'm wrong, I delete it. Like, you don't need to like outwardly promote that stuff about yourself. Like, it's not a good look for anybody.
Right.
Going back to your comment about the drops, Jacoby Myers being that he has 3 drops on the season, and his drop rate is 4.4%, which is pretty in line. So it might have been like the timing of the drops, but it's not like not a big
yeah, maybe it was the timing. And maybe there were some catchable balls that went off the fingertips that wouldn't count as a drop. But I felt like I just kept seeing times that he was targeted that he just did not come away with a ball that I thought he should come away with.
But they also could be not categorized as a drop. I don't really like, what is a catch? What is a drop? What is intentional grounding? What is the point of having the virtual first down chain measurement thing system that they have now when they don't use it? When is the push?
Is that there now?
Yeah. When is the push like play over? Like, there's so many questions that nobody knows the answers to.
I didn't even know they were using. I thought that was next year.
I feel like I've seen them use it like spot times.
Because the chain gang is the most like ridiculous thing.
It's like the most medieval thing of all time for like $1 billion.
And it's like so subjective. It's like, hey, dude, look where you're standing. Make sure you stand right like that when you get out there.
Yeah, so you got to walk 20 yards and you have to be in the exact same spot that you were in before. There's no way.
Yeah, it's amazing. I wanted to I was just thinking about one thing, but I forgot what it was. So I'll just go ahead and go back to something that I mentioned to you earlier. Is there anything fantasy or just league related that you considered to be a big takeaway from this weekend? Like anybody that you were like, or you know what I mean? Or situations or...
I mean, the one that scares me the most is Lamar Jackson. I don't think that hamstring is healed at all. He is not doing the things that we are accustomed to. And it's not like like he lost a step because he's old. Like, you can just tell that like he's not comfy. What's weirder about it is it's not like they have like some random scrub in the backfield that they could lean on. They could just hand it off to Derrick Henry. And if you look at the games like that they've had and like where they've struggled, it's like he'll be averaging 6 yards a carry, have 50 yards on his first 6 carries, and then he doesn't see the ball for like 2 quarters.
Yeah, it's not it's not rocket surgery, just give the ball to the guy who's going to be a Hall of Famer, for crying out loud.
I don't know. Do you think that like, how does this is there a world where you wouldn't play Lamar, or like who are players that you would be willing to play Lamar?
I'll tell you what, I'll say this. I can go back and answer that question. There are certainly players that I would play over Lamar, but they're probably already playing for somebody else. I wouldn't drop them out of QB1 territory.
Okay, okay. Would you play? Let me see who they got this week. So
Snoop Huntley.
Oh, would you play? No, not Snoop Huntley. Respect the Pro Bowler, but no. Is there a world where you would play Jacoby Brissett over Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson, historically, who struggles against the Steelers, and you have Brissett going up against the Rams defense, who has been nasty. I don't think that I have the family jewels to pull such moves.
Yeah, I don't have the plums to do that. I mean, especially against the Rams. I mean, like if you'd have made that argument and said that Jacoby was playing, kind of a middle of the road, like San Francisco. Let's say he was playing San Francisco again.
Right.
I'd say I would really think about it a lot, and I'd probably switch them back and forth in the lineup about 10 times before 1:00 on Sunday.
Right.
I have one that's interesting. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. So, RJ Harvey, I don't think anybody disagrees that I think he's going to be a successful back in the NFL, especially because of his versatility. But he's very, very clearly still young. And even last week, I feel like he left a lot of yards on the field. And I don't think that Tyler Bidet is the guy that needs to be there. And as much as I've railed against Jaleel McLaughlin for years, I'm starting to be like, I think he might be the guy that needs to be the Duns type dude.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they need to get RJ Harvey going because he is going to really be important when it comes to playoff time. Something that I read, I forget who said it, but it was a very interesting kind of take. And we talked about him a little bit before the show. Troy Franklin has kind of come out of nowhere, been what seemingly felt like Bo Nix's favorite target. If you look at the stat line last night, Bo Nix had a solid game, but was nowhere to be found. There was no connection with Troy Franklin. Why is that? Troy Franklin was not blocking well, and every time they tried to run an outside play and Troy Franklin was on the field, it got blown up right in his face. So you're seeing a lot more Pat Bryant, who is a better blocker because they want to get RJ Harvey going. They're never going to give him this like full like Madden 100% bell cow role, but RJ Harvey is going to retain at least 60% of that. I like Jaleel McLaughlin as a kind of just like a third down guy. I don't think that he necessarily has fantasy relevance, but I do think that he is kind of a solid player. So
yeah,
I think it's a good move to keep Harvey fresh, but I think they're going to lean on Harvey quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they will. I just feel like the Harvey's first game, there was a lot more Jaleel than we expected.
Yes.
And then this game, there was virtually no Jaleel.
Right. And I think too, like that game, like that was just a weird game. You had the overtime, like there was just a lot of strangeness to it.
Right.
So I think it will level out. I don't think that they want to overuse Harvey, but at the end of the day, they need to get wins. Right.
Well, I mean, and they do. So I guess that's my next question. And it's not, particularly fantasy related, but is Denver like the most precarious of the heavy win teams? Like feels like a favorite right now. They've won 10 games in a row.
You're talking about the Patriots or the Broncos haven't won 10 in a row, have they?
The Broncos.
Man, it does not feel like they have, like the way that people are talking about them, it doesn't feel like they've won that many games in a row.
And I mean, and if I'm not mistaken, their last 6 were by a total of 10 combined points.
Right. It feels unsustainable to me. They remind me a lot of was it 2020? The Steelers started off 13-0. They had the great defense, mediocre everything else. And then people were kind of able to scheme up around it, and eventually it all fell apart. That's how I feel about this Broncos team right now. They have a lot of good things breaking in their favor. They have, since the Chargers have lost Joe Alt, that offense has absolutely struggled. Justin Herbert is not the player that we saw at the beginning of the season, mostly because he's fighting for his life Well, it'll be interesting to see how that improves. I'm assuming that Amari and Hampton makes it back this week. Vidal had a nice game last week, but I think that people don't fear him as much, and he benefits from having Justin Herbert be his quarterback. So being able to slide Omarion back into that lineup, I think it's going to do dividends for them. And then you have the Chiefs just like floundering games away. So they're running away with that division, and there's not going to be a whole lot to catch them. But I don't see the Denver making the deep run. I wouldn't put my money on them, although I do love that defense. There's a lot of great defenses in the AFC, though. I mean, you look at the Texans, you look at the Broncos, like there's a lot of heavyweights out there. The Colts, even with losing Sauce, I mean, their defense is pretty stingy. So there's a lot of tough outs, and it's like, do I have confidence that Bo can put it together for 4 quarters? I don't.
Yeah, I'll correct myself. They've actually won 9 in a row. They started 1-2 and then rattled off 9 straight.
It still doesn't feel like it, though, which is so funny because, I mean, winning 9 games in a row, I mean, that's just impressive at that level. You know, I mean, winning in the NFL is not easy. To do that with a second-year quarterback, a pretty young team, all things considered, especially if you look back to when they got rid of Russell Wilson, it seemed like that team was going to be doom and gloom for a very long time. The pace in which they've turned it around has been truly impressive. So not going to slight them for that, but I think that there's more levels that they need to get to really kind of get to that contender status.
Yeah, and the Broncos are currently the number 2 seed. Behind New England, and they're 2 games ahead of the 3 seed right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what their remaining schedule is, but I know they have Vegas next week. So, mark that down.
There you go. Yeah. You know what? The only sad part about it is now that they switched it to the 7-game playoff teams, I mean, coming in second, it doesn't even matter. Like,
right. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. You don't get that favorable bye.
But you do get to play the Steelers in the first round, so there's
that.
Which is basically a bye game, so
there is that.
Yeah.
But
how terrible will it be? Like, this is going to happen. Like, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all these top end quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, if the Bengals somehow snuck in, could you imagine them as the 7 seed? Like, you've been balling this whole season. You have the 2nd seed. You're feeling great. And it's like, oh, I get to play the Chiefs now. Like, can I pick my opponent? Can I play literally anyone else?
Right. Yeah. Do you honestly think the Bengals can make the playoffs?
No, but would I want to play against Joe Burrow in the playoffs? Also no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They almost did it last year the same fucking way by running the table to finish.
You're going to need the Steelers and the Ravens to split, and you're just going to need those 2 to continue to struggle. The only way that I see them sneaking in is probably winning the division. Right. I think there's a 1 team coming out of it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. They have to win the division. So they need Broncos and Steelers and Ravens to beat up on one another.
Right.
And then they have to beat them both. They have to.
Well, we've already played y'all twice, so we split y'all, but you get the Ravens again.
We get the Ravens again. Yeah, that was I think it's miraculous that all in 1 year, like you said about the script writers, that well, Josh Allen's going to make the playoffs.
Oh, for sure.
But
we might be playing wide receiver for the Bills, but they'll make it.
Right. But if this is a playoffs without Lamar and Mahomes,
what is Chris Collinsworth and Tony Romo going to know about?
Head might explode if Travis Kelce isn't in the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. But apparently, Andy Reid wants to attack our tonsils on every play, so at least there's that.
Right. Let's do let's go back to a little fantasy here. Let's try this. Well, first of all, I'll preface this by saying I really hate when people start tagging guys as league winners
Okay.
before the end of the season, because I don't think you can do it until you can look back and say people that had Jerick McKinnon, he was the league winner. You know what I mean? But who do you think this year, as of right this moment, do you think will be the most valuable fantasy asset in the playoffs? Meaning he's probably going to be the player that's most rostered on championship teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few. JSN obviously is going to be a big one. He was human last week and didn't score 20 points for once, which was shocking. He's been incredibly consistent. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, he has essentially been putting up not quite to the level of Cooper Kupp Triple Crown year, but wide receiver 1, wide receiver 10, wide receiver 9, wide receiver 8, wide receiver 7, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 3. Like, it's just been consistent the whole season. And then last week against Minnesota, wide receiver 71. You're like, brother, like, what are we doing? I think you have to show some love to both. And I hate saying this, but like with CMC, he was going to be a first round pick anyway. He should have been a much earlier first round pick, but he's been balling out. I think you'll see a lot of Jonathan Taylor, who was RB9 in draft day. He's been a top 2 easily. I think that if you went tight end early, you picked up Trey McBride over Brock Bowers, that's going to pay dividends for you. That doesn't mean if you were able to snag Bowers at some point, I mean, he looked great. He's going to have a monster week this week.
Dude, once again, that catch, oh my God.
Sick. But let's look at some players that are a little bit further below on the radar, right? So who are players that maybe weren't necessarily drafted as high? We talked about them before the show. I mean, really, this is the Dallas Cowboys show, right? You look at George Pickens, wide receiver 29. He's what, top 5 wide receiver right now. And so he's been getting it done pretty consistently with or without CeeDee Lamb. It doesn't matter. And then you look at Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is only a couple yards from his first 1,000-yard season in his career. Dude's been balling out all off season. And this is why I get annoyed with fantasy creators. Oh, it's going to be Jadon Blue. Oh, it's going to be like this and that. There's no way it could be Javonte Williams. And every year we pump up all these rookies that we watch like 5 minutes of like YouTube clips.
I'm such a Javonte stan. When the Broncos let him go, I was like, you're making a mistake.
Yeah. And then, and it does pan out. I mean, you see the guys like the Cam Scadaboos of the world that, I mean, I was very low on, admittedly, and he did a lot better than I expected. But stuff like that. And then I think, like, if you look at the quarterback position, we talked about Drake May a little bit already. So he's obviously done really well. Jackson Dart, if you had a flyer on him and thought that he was going to take over pretty quick for Russ, then you're smooth sailing there. So there's a lot of players. I think JSN, Trey McBride, they're probably going to be the 2 big league winners. But it's a lot of fun to look back at it.
Yeah, I would think Jonathan Taylor would be up there. Although, his championship week, I think he's got the Jaguars, who are no cakewalk against the run.
No, 17. He's got a tough schedule coming up pretty much the whole playoffs. He's got Jacksonville, Seattle, San Francisco won't be too bad, then Jacksonville again. And then if you're a week 18 weirdo, then you got at Houston.
Yeah, I hope you're not a week 18 weirdo. If anybody's watching,
no.
And they're no. I'm talking to the people. If anybody is watching and your league plays the championship in week 18, you guys got to fix that.
Please.
Do it for the people.
You could just do DFS that week. It's fine. You'll get through it. But there's nothing worse than having a great season and then you have players that just don't play. It's just like
Team Javonte from J1. Me too, man. Me too. I actually a couple years ago in Dynasty, I coughed up Breece Hall, who I really liked, as long as Javonte Williams was coming back in the trade. And I didn't win the trade, but the other piece was nice too. Let's see what what we should do. We should talk about fast draft.
Ooh.
Before I forget.
Yeah, don't forget, man. This is important.
This is important stuff. I know a ton of people that are just making money hand over fist in these DFS contests. It's ridiculous. The Flex 6 Frenzy is the most popular one. I am partial to Quick 6 Super Slam, which is you don't draft against anybody. You just pick your 6 favorite guys. They go against all the other teams and their 6 favorite guys. There's no pros. There's no bots or any of that stuff in there to screw you up. So, and standings were updated in real time. So that's really cool stuff. But Flex 6 Frenzy is the one that people seem to have the most fun at because you can join drafts with friends, as long as you jump in at the same time. It's only 8 teams in a draft. It's 30 seconds for pick, or maybe it's 20 now. So, I mean, you can draft a 6-person team in 5 minutes. And they're affordable. They're affordable to get into, and you can use my promo code to get a match on that as well. But that's enough for me. Why don't we let the man himself, the only man who could tell us what we need to hear, and that is, I'm looking for it.
You could do this. Come on, man.
Well, I was going to do Quick 6 Super Slam, but I always do that one, so I was looking for the frenzy button. Let's go.
I know your sad draft season is over, but just because the NFL season starts doesn't mean the drafting stops, because Fast Draft has the Flex 6 Frenzy. You're drafting 6 guys for the Sunday slate. It's fast, it's furious, it's fun, and as with everything on Fast Draft, there are no salaries. Woo! So go to draftfaster.com, get the app, use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
That promo code is right. Cha! You put WHIP in there, they will match you dollar for dollar. And like I said, it's inexpensive to play. The Super Slam is $5. The Flex 6 Frenzy is $10. There's also all kinds of promos where if you like max enter both for a week, you automatically get like $50 in promo bucks to spend next week. So, and that's on top of the, $1,000 you could win. So anyway, let's go on. We have to talk about waivers. It's Tuesday.
Heck yeah, man.
And we're at the point I was saying this to you before the show. We're at the point now where if you're trying desperately to sneak into the playoffs with that last win, because there are a lot of leagues where guys are all, like 6 and 7, you know what I mean? And 7 and 7 is going to get you in, but you got to beat them on points and so on and so forth. Without seeing your league and your team, it's hard to make waiver wire recommendations, but there are a couple guys out there that have had, recent performances that might still be lesser rostered that are available to you. So what do you think, Joe? You got any off the top of your head before I pull up this list?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple that come to mind, mostly at the wide receiver front. I feel like without injury, it can be tough to find running back options just because people tend to hold backups as handcuffs as it is. But a couple players that have looked good the last couple of weeks, Well, actually, there is one that we have to mention from a running back perspective. Blake Corum, we saw the injury happen with Kyron Williams last week. So if Blake Corum hasn't been handcuffed, he's in your roster. That is an immediate priority add. Anything that the Rams offense has to offer outside of being a tight end, we are all for that. So go make that happen. Other than that, a couple players that I'm going to mention. Christian Watson from the Packers. I think he's done a really nice job since he came back from the injury. He's seemingly become the top target. We don't know how long that this will last, but we're going to ride the hot hand. We know that that is going to become a very crowded wide receiver room, especially with Jaden Reed looking to be coming closer and closer back to the offense. But it seems like for a while there, Romeo Doubs was kind of the biggest beneficiary of that offense. And it seems like Christian Watson is kind of the good blend of getting the red zone work, getting the deep ball opportunities, but also being somebody that Jordan Love obviously trusts. And then another one, I don't know if you would still count it because he's floating right around that 50% rostered ship, I guess you could call it. But Jaden Higgins, I've really liked what he's done these last 3 or 4 weeks for Houston. He's somebody that's really started to pop on film. We saw a little bit less of a performance with CJ Stroud coming back. It seemed like he had a little bit more chemistry with Davis Mills, but I think that he's somebody that he has that upside if they are going to utilize him, if he is getting that targets. Like I would rather have him on my bench and not use him, and that rather than him pop off, or if something happens to Nico, then he would slide into that role very comfortably.
Yeah, I was guilty this year of doing something I never do, which is I chased points. When Romeo Doubs had the 3 touchdown game, I was like, okay, maybe I can deal with a Packer. Maybe there is a number one finally. And I was so wrong because every time I've started him, he's done terrible. And then every time I've not, he's, had a great stat line. But I do love Christian Watson. And I've always liked Christian Watson just in general. So
he's a physical specimen of a human. And it's insane. Like the physical tools that he has, it's like if you did like a blind kind of like, they have like the RAS score, like all these different things. Like he has like Megatron freak athletic ability there. What's up, Sips? So it's like, that he has that talent. The biggest thing for him is he just can't stay on the field.
He's right here.
Right here.
Yeah, the other one of the ones I was going to mention is I can't believe I'm saying this, but Bam Knight is still not heavily rostered in fantasy leagues.
Before you dive into him, do you think that Trey Benson comes back this week?
Here's where I was going with that. They signed a running back today. They signed Corey Kiner,
of course, legend
to the legend to the backfield, and I have not heard really any other news on Benson right now, other than the fact that he just went limited all last week. So right now, I think if you're a Benson owner, and I'm pretty much talking to myself because I have him in every league, you have to be a little concerned if you're depending on him to come back. At the same time, Bam Knight actually looked pretty good last week. Actually, he's looked pretty good the last 2 weeks. He's catching balls out of the backfield more than Michael Carter. Who is technically, I guess, the third down or change of pace. And I have not heard anything about Emari DeMarcado either. So Bam Knight, if he's still out there, I just don't see any reason not to snatch him up when all these running backs are just dropping and positions are shifting. We see Hubbard eating into Dowdle's carries, and he had a great game last week.
Yeah, they had a lot of attempts last week between the two of them. I don't know if we'll see that every week, but it seems like the magic that Rico had for that stretch there is gone a little bit. You knew that it was going to be hard for them to keep Chuba off the field. He's a captain of that team. Like, I know that doesn't mean anything to like people outside of the locker room, but they're going to give him more of a leash than they are just like some random guy that they signed for a 1-year, $3 million deal this offseason.
Right.
Right.
I agree
So we'll
with
see
that.
what happens with it. One other thing, I know we were talking about Christian Watson. I just want to hit you with some numbers other than just kind of giving like the vibes play. So if you look, we were talking about like how he's been this combination of like deep ball threat and red zone threat. So he, in the last 3 weeks, has had 43.8% of the air yards for the Green Bay Packers. He's led the team in targets with 7.3 targets per game. Dobbs is second with 5. Wicks has been third with 4.3. That's huge, especially with Tucker Kraft being out. A lot of people were jumping like, oh, well, Luke Musgrave next man up. No, like he is not.
No,
Kraft,
come
like, that's not going to
on.
be a thing. Like that was kind of like fool's gold there. So Christian Watson has really taken that. And then if you look on the flip side of that, he also has 2 end zone targets, and he's gotten touchdowns on both of them. Dobbs and him are basically the 2 primary inside the 20 guys. So we'll see how it shakes. And then Morstein was saying too that Chuba was banged up, trying to kind of bouncing back and forth. So it seems like he's a little bit more healthier. And then one last stat for you for Christian Watson: first read percentage, 36% of snaps that he's running routes on. So I mean, they're looking for him. They're looking for him often.
That's impressive from Love, because they're one of the reasons they haven't had a number 1 receiver is because he doesn't key in.
He's definitely a facilitator for sure
on one particular guy.
Yeah, and I think Matt LaFleur prefers that. I know him and Aaron kind of just like, hey, Devontae Adams is down there somewhere, but I think Matt LaFleur, he likes the Swiss Army knife kind of guy. Like, I don't know if you're going to go out there and be Savion Williams and run a reverse. I don't know if you're going to go out there and go do the fly route. What I don't understand is, why did you draft Matthew Golden in the first round and they don't really care to use him whatsoever? I know he's been banged up, but it's just very shocking the way, like, the capital that they used on him and the little juice that they got out of the squeeze from that. So it'd be very interesting to see how that relationship goes moving forward, but seemingly not looking too great for him. But yeah, Christian Watson, he's looking good. Sip Sound Sports said it as well. Proven himself a really nice late ad. Be nice if you could scoop him up. I completely agree. I think it's
I do too.
Get after. It might be a week late, but if he's there, definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna tread lightly here, but I think it bears mentioning Tyrod Taylor being on a roster if you have room for a backup quarterback. His remaining schedule is like Miami, Jacksonville, New Orleans, and somebody else. And that's a cakewalk. And I know they're all pretty, with the exception of Jacksonville, they're all pretty sore against the run. So they'll be probably running the ball first.
Yeah.
But Taylor, just in the way he played this past weekend, I think alone merits a look. And he's rostered in 4% of PPR leagues. On ESPN, I think. There's, other than that, the wide receivers, just, you can't look at projections anymore at this point in the season.
Mm-mm.
If you
I don't know if you ever can projections, and it's like, I've been trying to dabble in like doing more of the rankings and like doing all of that stuff, and it's very, like, you can have all of the stats in the world, but there is some randomness to it. So you can't just look at the projections and be like, okay, like, I'm not going to play this guy anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, I always joke about it, and I don't mean to take this away from anybody that does a great job putting them all together and everything. But I always joke that, like, the last person that a platform hires is the projections guy. And it's like an intern that just got out of college.
Yeah.
And they're like, you do this. You can't believe the projections. Like this week, Alan Lazard is listed as the one of the second highest projected totals for the week. That's Lazard.
Yeah.
And that's over, Aomanor and even tight ends like Brenton Strange, or Mason Taylor, who you'd way rather have in the flex.
Sure. Yeah. It's definitely a thankless thing. That's for sure. I give kudos to people that are willing to do that because it's not an easy thing whatsoever.
Right. And then you've got well, I caution everybody not to fall into the same trap I did. I drafted Jordan Addison everywhere. Everywhere. And I know he's sitting on the waiver wire looking at you like, you want this.
Yeah.
Because every week he's got great projections. And I once again, I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm sorry. I'm terribly unprepared tonight. But I think Addison has not eclipsed 30 yards in his last 4 games. In any of the 4 games, not collectively. But what do you think of Darren Waller?
I mean, that magical run that he had in the middle of the season was pretty phenomenal. Can he reclaim that mustard that he had? I'm not sure. There's definitely opportunities there. They lost Tyreek Hill. They don't have a lot of receiving options. Even HN didn't have a reception last week. So there is the opportunity for it.
He had a 35-yard catch on Sunday. He only had 2 catches, but one was a deep one down the sideline.
I think it's a way.
We always knew that about Waller. He plays like a wide receiver.
Right. The Jets aren't necessarily the team that I would want to go against. Since they've lost Quentin Williams, they've become just an absolute gash in the run game. So there's no real reason to really throw against them. So I'm expecting a lot of HN this week. So I think that the opportunities won't necessarily be there. But I mean, I like Waller as a stash and hold. When he's been out there, he's done good things. So why not see what
and you figure the semifinals and the quarterfinals and the semis, he's got Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, both of whom are just horrendous against tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
If you can even call Waller a tight end, really,
Right.
that's what he's listed as, but he's more of a receiver, a wide receiver. But that's very favorable. I've been looking a lot at Miami stuff, and I was getting myself real pumped up about some guys on Miami, like even Malik Washington. I was like, he might be a good stash. And then Tua went out and dropped an Amber Heard on Sunday, and I was like, oh, forget about all that.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
as the quarterback goes, so goes the team.
No, yeah, it's so true. And I mean, yeah, it's they really make or break it. And that's why those guys get paid so much stupid money to play. And it's funny how I've always been so shocked. You only need 32 good ones, and we can't ever find 32 good ones.
Right.
It's like, are they hidden out there? Is there like a guy that's like working at a grocery store that could just slang the rock like that we just haven't found yet? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like Roxanne and I said on this show a couple weeks ago. We were talking about how the same backup quarterbacks who are always awful just keep making the rounds and sticking around the league because they know how the league works or whatever. You're telling me some undrafted guy from Prairie State, couldn't possibly throw the ball better than, so Kenny Pickett, honestly. But yeah, the last one I wanted to mention, I don't know if you have any more, but I wanted to mention just kind of as a sidebar, got to watch the injury report this week with everything that's going on in Minnesota and how they're turning into kind of a train wreck. They're leaning on the run more. And now Aaron Jones went down with an injury. And when he came back from injury, everybody expected Mason to keep the majority of the carries. That did not occur. Aaron Jones pretty much just took over, and consequently, Mason got dropped to the tune where he's down to rostered 60%.
Right.
I know that's still reasonably high, but if you're in a 12-team league, 60% guy, it's probably out there.
Yeah, it could be worth it. The problem with Jordan Mason, though, is that he just gets no pass catching work. You really need him to fall into the end zone for it to make it worth your while. And that offense is not performing to the standard that we're used to out of Minnesota. We're used to them really doing things. I will say this week, if Aaron Jones doesn't get the green light, Washington is the perfect matchup for Jordan Mason. They can't stop a nosebleed right now.
No, they can't.
I would feel comfortable kind of putting him in as an RB2. Unless it's that strong of a plus matchup, I'm probably looking for other options. I mean, even if you look at like Harvey before the J.K. Dobbins injury, he was getting 3 or 4 receptions and he was going to outperform Mason. So it's just like it doesn't take much if he doesn't get into the end zone.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, if God forbid, if there's anything wrong and Aaron Jones is out for an extended period, I think the only upside I see is that Xavier catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah, and he had some nice games.
He's done a really good job, but I don't think he has earned the go-to red zone threat kind of feel. You know what I mean? So I think when they get down close, if they're going to run it, obviously it's going to be Mason. But if they're going to throw it, that's because they're further back and they're going to throw it to receiver. So
yeah. Cool, man.
You got any more?
No, I got nothing else for you.
All right. I'll tell you what we didn't do. What we didn't do, Joe, or as it says in the description of this video, Smokin' Joe Frick.
Wow.
Look, we do nothing but, pump up the people that join us on the show.
Hey, man, I am all for supporting a fellow friend. So
well, and speaking of which, I would like to support you. So please, would you tell the people where they can find all your stuff, including the Fantasy Sports Advice Network?
Yeah, for sure. So I am the director of social media and community over at the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. We do football, we do basketball, we do baseball, we do good vibes, we do family dinner on Sundays, so all of that stuff, you can find us at FSAN.com. If you're seeing any funny tweets going out through the FFAN Twitter handles, that's definitely me. If you see anything corny, weird, stupid, you're not into it, somebody else definitely hacked the account. So just be on the lookout for that. My personal handle is at JOEFRK, pretty much everywhere on the internet except for Reddit. It used to be like an anonymous thing, and now everybody just kind of like whips their Reddit out like aimlessly. But I'm on there too. I do a show on Wednesday evenings at 8:30, the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show with my boy Drew Hannis. He does all of the injuries and all the cool stuff. I do all of the graphics and making sure that we know what we're talking about and stats stuff. I publish a weekly fantasy points allowed last 3 weeks chart every week. So that goes up on the FSAN website. That goes on pretty much anywhere that I can post it. But I feel very passionately about the fact that using season-long rankings is the improper way to set lineups. I think that people weigh the season averages way too much, and we need to take a smaller kind of like piece of that and kind of look at what teams have done lately. You look at the injuries, you look at the trades. Those are really prevalent when you're trying to set your lineup. So make sure you take a look at that. And then on Friday nights from the forum, we've had Samwise on there a bunch of times, but it is your fantasy football Q&A show on Friday nights. Usually got a drink in hand, usually got the good vibes going. My boy Tyler Bradley, always a good time. So you can always find me pretty much anywhere. On Sundays, I do less Q&A, more slang and memes just as I'm watching the games and just enjoying it on the Twitterverse. But yeah, man, I'm always around. So willing to talk ball, want to talk whatever, I'm here for it. So always a pleasure to be here, of course. And always appreciate talking to you.
Absolutely. And likewise, Joe, I would love to squeeze in on a Friday sometime if you need somebody. So let me know.
Sure, man. Yeah, definitely.
But to summarize what the hardest working man in fantasy football just said,
Please.
go to Twitter, go to JOEFRK. You will find all of his stuff, all of his links, all of his funny stuff, all of his really corny stuff.
It's true.
And you can find me at Buy and Sell You on Twitter. And my article of the same name of the show, Fantasy Whiplash, comes out on Wednesday nights or Thursday mornings. So you'll be watching for that. It will have all of the latest injury updates so you don't have to search by players. I will tell you what you need to know. So I think that's it. Joe, you want to say goodbye to the people?
People, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun.